In recent days, the world has turned its attention to the Vatican. Pope Francis was hospitalized again, and his health condition has generated global concern. The medical team at Gemelli Hospital in Rome confirmed the severity of the condition: a polymicrobial infection, pneumonia in both lungs, and an unstable clinical condition. At 88 years old, these factors make the situation even more delicate. But there is something beyond the pontiff's weakened health. An ancient prophecy from nearly 9 centuries ago mentions the end of the papacy as we know it. According to this riddle, Francisco would be the last on the list. If you are interested in mysteries, prophecies, and events that can change our perception of the present and the future, subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell to receive new videos. Here, we deeply analyze the signs of our time, bringing reflections and information that many ignore. Don't miss out. Share this video and follow each new revelation. The last before the fall of the city of 7 hills. The last before an event that would change everything. Coincidence or a real warning? While the Vatican remains silent, the signs keep emerging. A weakened leader, an internal crisis in the Church, and a world engulfed in uncertainties. The recent hospitalization only reinforced the concerns. The doctors were categorical. The infection is not mild and represents a considerable risk. In recent years, Francisco had already been facing a progressive deterioration. Knee problems, hip pain, and unstable health episodes have been accumulating. In 2023, he went through a severe pneumonia that required urgent hospitalization. Since then, his energy seems to be gradually diminishing. Today, the Pope frequently needs a wheelchair to move around. Even so, defying physical limitations, he embarked on one of the longest trips of his papacy in 2024, traveling through Asia and Oceania for 12 days. The extreme effort raised doubts about his actual condition and the necessity of exposing his health to such exhausting journeys. Public figures always generate speculation, especially when they are spiritual leaders of global reach. Small signs are analyzed and transformed into questions about the future of the Vatican. In the case of an elderly pontiff, the debate about succession and the prophecies surrounding his name intensify. Shortly before the hospitalization, the Vatican had confirmed a possible trip to Turkey, in addition to a series of events for the Jubilee year of the Catholic Church. But in light of recent events, many questions arise. Is Francis's time at the head of the Church coming to an end? The Vatican has entered a waiting period. Public meetings have been suspended, and each medical bulletin is being closely monitored. Meanwhile, the trajectory of Pope Francis is once again being analyzed by faithful and specialists. He was not the obvious choice at the 2013 conclave. After the resignation of Benedict XVI, his candidacy emerged as an unexpected alternative. Although he was considered in the 2005 conclave, he lost to Joseph Ratzinger. In 2013, his advanced age and the fact that he was little known outside South America seemed like obstacles. But the cardinals, seeking someone distant from the internal disputes of the Roman Curia, gave him the leadership of the Church. The history of the papacy shows that many pontiffs have faced serious health challenges. John Paul II, in his later years, dealt with the effects of Parkinson's and other debilitating diseases, but remained in office until his death. Benedict XVI, however, broke this tradition by resigning due to fatigue and physical frailty. Now with Francisco, the dilemma resurfaces. He could follow the same path if his health continues to deteriorate. Within the Church, opinions are divided. Some advocate for resignation when health prevents the full exercise of the ministry. Others believe that the papal mission should be carried out to the end, regardless of the difficulties. Francis himself has already mentioned, in interviews, that he would consider this possibility, increasing the speculation. 2 consecutive resignations would be something unprecedented, an event that would change the tradition of the Church and could indicate an irreversible break. And this is where the prophecy of Saint Malachy comes in. Whenever a pope falls ill, this ancient 900-year-old prophecy comes back into discussion. According to scholars, Malachy listed 112 popes, describing each one with an enigmatic phrase. If Francis is indeed the last on the list, as many believe, the world may be facing an unprecedented event in the history of the Church. The prophecy of Saint Malachy indicates that the 112th pontiff would be the last, associated with a period of tribulations and a possible final judgment. For many, Pope Francis fits this description, as his predecessor, Benedict XVI, would have been the penultimate on the list. Although the authenticity of these predictions is contested, even skeptics acknowledge that several popes, over the centuries, have intriguingly matched the descriptions attributed to Malachy. Among the most cited examples is Paul VI, described as Flos Florum, flower of flowers, who carried flowers in his coat of arms, as well as Benedict XVI, associated with the glory of the olive, in reference to the Benedictine order. In light of this, many believers wonder, are we really at the end of this prophetic succession, or are the interpretations exaggerated? The influence of these prophecies within the Church has always been a controversial topic. There are reports of cardinals trying to fit into the writings of Malachy to increase their chances of being elected. A curious example is that of Cardinal Francis Spellman, who in 1958 rented a boat on the Tiber River to suggest that he was the pastor and sailor described in the prophecy. The attempt did not work, and he was not chosen. Another point of debate is the identity of the last pope on the list, called Peter the Roman. According to the literal interpretation, the last pontiff should have adopted the name Peter upon ascending the throne of Saint Peter. However, Jorge Bergoglio chose Francis. The defenders of the prophecy claim that this detail does not invalidate it. Using the name Peter again would be inappropriate, as the first leader of the Church, Saint Peter, holds a unique place in Catholic tradition. Even so, there are those who see symbolic connections between Francis and Peter the Roman. Saint Francis of Assisi himself, the inspiration for the current pope's name, was called Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardone, meaning he had a Pietro in his family name. Books like Petrus Romanus, The Final Pope is Here, by Tom Horn and Chris Putnam, delve deeper into this theory. The work examines the prophetic phrases of Malachy, making connections with historical events, and suggesting that the world is facing the final phase of the list. But this is not the only prophecy that speaks about a time of great trials for the Church. Apocalyptic texts often point to future conflicts, not always related to the Pope, but his figure carries profound symbolism. As the leader of the largest Christian institution in the world, his influence transcends faith and intertwines with global events. In the work History of the Popes by Ludwig von Pastor, periods of extreme crisis and papal authority are described. The Great Western Schism, the European revolutions, moments when many believed they were witnessing the collapse of the papacy. Although these predictions have never materialized, the book reveals a pattern. Each era tends to interpret its crises as signs of final decline. This brings us to a central point. If the list of Saint Malachy really ends with Francis, what happens if he were to pass away or resign? Would there be room for a successor, or would everything already be concluded? Some believe that the prophecy describes not only the last pope, but also a period of great trials. And the signs of a troubled time are not lacking. Pandemics, wars, natural disasters, political and economic crises. Theologians argue that Francis's papacy already represents a significant transition. His leadership takes place in a world transformed by technology, the advancement of artificial intelligence, and profound changes in global behavior. Moreover, challenges such as the refugee crisis and global warming require a stance that goes beyond spiritual discourse. Throughout his papacy, Francis sought to modernize the dialogue within the Church. The Synod on Synodality and other attempts at renewal were efforts to update the institution. However, such changes encountered resistance. This clash of ideas generates crises, and crises fuel speculations about ruptures and the end of cycles. In addition to the prophecy of Malachy, Protestant Christian movements also have eschatological views that involve great religious leaders in crisis scenarios. Francisco, in recent years, has dedicated himself to interreligious dialogue, promoting meetings with different Christian denominations and Muslim leaders. For some, this effort was an essential step towards world peace. For others, it represented controversial concessions. If his health prevents him from continuing with this mission, it remains to be seen whether his successor will follow the same path. For those who see these changes as positive, the uncertainty is concerning. For those who interpret prophetic signs, all of this reinforces the perception that we are living in a crucial moment. In the end, it is necessary to balance faith and reason. For many Catholics, the hope lies in the recovery of Pope Francis. If that doesn't happen, the certainty that the Church will withstand any transition remains. Reason, on the other hand, reminds us that time is relentless and that every institution undergoes renewal. Meanwhile, the prophecy of Saint Malachy continues to fuel debates. Its narrative sparks curiosity, reflecting the human need to find meaning in times of uncertainty. The essential question, however, remains unanswered. Will Francisco be able to overcome this serious infection? The Pope's history of overcoming challenges inspires optimism, but the challenges are undeniable. Polybacterial infection, pneumonia in both lungs, a complex condition for his advanced age. The doctors continue to monitor, but the outcome is still uncertain. While the world waits, Francis's words on charity, humility, and solidarity continue to resonate. His trajectory has been marked by bold actions, direct speeches, and a vision of renewal within the Church. But what will come next? On one hand, there are those who see this moment as a symbolic turning point, a new cycle for Catholicism to face the challenges of the 21st century. For others, the end of a cycle may signify the beginning of difficult times, possibly connected to the prophetic warnings that have surrounded the Vatican for centuries. The truth is that no one can predict the future with certainty. What is known for now is that a fragile but determined man continues his fight. Whatever the outcome, your journey will remain marked as one of the most significant in the history of the Church.